When you grow up with a narcissistic parent, you're not like all the other kids. While their parents are warning them not to touch the hot stove, you're slowly realizing your own parent is the hot stove. And you can neither avoid getting too close to the heat, nor can you predict when it will be blazing hot. Growing up with a narcissistic parent is a masterclass in paying close attention. Well, to everyone but your own self, that is. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Waking Up from Narc Abuse, a micro podcast by Alana Sanborn. This is a micro podcast. It's meant to start your thoughts flowing. It's meant to be the beginning of a conversation, a dialogue, not a monologue. Because we're talking about something that's pretty heavy, my hope is that shorter episodes that are easier to digest will help you without overwhelming you. And here is today's show. Having parents who are emotionally immature, which also typically means they're emotionally volatile, is a roller coaster ride for their children. Even as an adult, you're probably still reeling from the stuff that you endured in your childhood. And if you're still in touch with your parents, the ride isn't over. The most common dynamics I've seen over the years include one parent who is emotionally large. They take up all the space with their dramatics, their needs, and complaints. And the other parent is the one coddling them, running circles around them as they try to meet all those insatiable needs. It's a classic codependent relationship, with one who is sick and the other who is the enabler. Also, we can refer to it as one who is needy and the other who is self-sacrificing. There are many ways to talk about it. And while I'm fairly allergic to the term codependent, which maybe I'll talk about another time, it is an interesting way to look at these relationship dynamics. I think we should talk about codependency, interdependence, attachment styles, and healthy relationships more in depth in future episodes. So I'll make a note to myself here. But does this sound familiar to you? One parent who's a bit dramatic and the other parent who is a bit passive. One parent who has all the problems and the other parent who is on cleanup duty 24/7. Even if your parents aren't together, you might be familiar with this dynamic. It prevails and transcends any legal documents or separation agreements, usually. The thing about this relationship dynamic is that one parent is set up to look like the quote-unquote bad one, the one who has overt behaviors that are clearly problematic, while the other is set up to look like the calm one, the rescuer, the person who is safe to be around. But here's the kicker. They're both narcissistic in their own ways. They're both too wrapped up in their dysfunctional dynamic to really care for you in a meaningful way. And so you, my friend, end up emotionally neglected, and sometimes physically neglected too. Sometimes later in life, you'll realize the kind, caring parent who took care of the narcissistic one was just as bad. They neglected you just as much. They have no capacity for tending to your needs, both as a child and now as an adult. It's disheartening, to say the least. Having parents like these who are so distracted by their own emotional roller coaster rides can leave you feeling an intense type of loneliness that is almost indescribable for people who don't experience it. This type of loneliness, the knowledge that you are truly alone in the world, doesn't go away, isn't easily soothed, and sneaks up on you in quiet moments and turns everything dark. Now, even if you don't relate to this intense sense of being alone in the world that I'm describing, you probably have other experiences that are common amongst folks who grew up in this dynamic. You might have a tricky relationship history where you've ended up dating people who are super needy, or maybe they're alcoholics, or they are drug users, just unstable in lots of ways. You might befriend people who are emotionally unstable, or rather they befriend you, and then they'll come to you with all their woes at all hours of the night. Perhaps you became a people pleaser, attuned to everyone's needs before they even realize they have a need. At the very least, you're probably hypervigilant, which just means you pay close attention to everything. You might be anxious, a bit neurotic, and tend to base your moods on other people's moods. If they're good, you're good. If they're not, cue the anxiety poos. Something else that deserves a big mention is trust issues. The biggest trust issues you'll have are with yourself, honestly. You probably have been raised in a way that had you jumping at every opportunity to keep your caregiver happy, and that means you base your decisions on other people's needs, not your own. And that will inevitably get you into some kind of trouble. And you'll eventually start questioning your own decision-making skills. Lack of self-trust is at the heart of all relationships with a narcissistic person. So if you find yourself being indecisive about the smallest decisions, where should I eat? Oh God, what should I eat? Up to the biggest ones, new jobs, moving to a new state, it might be because of a lack of self-trust, which could be due to an upbringing with an emotionally volatile parent. One whose every whim needed to be heeded, or else there would be hell to pay. In that kind of environment, you learn quickly to pay attention to their needs and not your own. Who cares if you're hungry when your mom is demanding the laundry be folded again because it's not done right? I should say, actually, that you never learn to know your own needs and respond to them. It's hard to learn how to take care of you, know what you want and need when that is irrelevant in your household. Why keep having needs when they're just going to be ignored? You learn to stuff those down and just do what the environment requires of you. Do you recognize yourself in any of this? If you do, I hope you have someone to talk to about it. Better yet, I hope you have someone to talk to and are also currently in at least one loving, mutually giving relationship where you get to experience attention, healthy dynamics, and tenderness. The classroom of life is the best place to learn real lessons, right? So a healthy relationship is the best place to learn what that feels like and to unlearn some of the habits and beliefs you might have from a lifetime of being neglected by people who weren't emotionally mature enough to really take care of you. Which brings me to a really good question. What the heck is a healthy relationship? What does that even look like? I have a blog post about that. It's on my website if you want to check it out. But I'll also do a podcast episode on it. It's a pretty important thing to define, right? If we're going to have a goal, we need to know what the goal actually looks like so we can know when we get there. And by the way, there is no shame in not knowing what a healthy relationship looks and feels like. How are you supposed to know? Nobody showed you. You didn't choose your parents. There's no way for you to magically have that information if you have never experienced it. And it's not too late to experience it. I hope you do know what it feels like to have a healthy relationship, but if you don't, it is totally okay. You're not ahead or behind anyone else. We all heal, learn, and grow at our own pace. And I'm here to help you learn. And you're probably listening because you do want to learn some things. If this episode is totally stuff you already know, great. If it's stuff that's blowing your mind, okay, let's get into it. And if it's stuff that you kind of know, but you're still figuring out, perfect. I'm here for all of you. We're figuring this out together. And today, that's all I got. So, good luck out there. And as always, take care of yourself.